The rings of Saturn glowed like a halo in the darkness, casting pale light across the hull of Outpost Aegis. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the long-range sensor displays. 36 hours ago, they had detected the Xerath warfleet dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Now, those same sensors showed over 3,000 alien vessels advancing toward humanity's last major defensive position. Status report, Sarah commanded, her voice steady despite the weight pressing down on her shoulders. The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, their fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. The civilian evacuation of Titan Colony is at 97% completion, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station. The last transport ships will clear the defensive perimeter within 40 minutes. Sarah nodded, her mind already calculating possibilities. Earth had fallen 3 years ago to the Xerath Empire, its surface transformed into mining operations to fuel their endless expansion. Mars held out for another year before succumbing. Now, only the Saturn defense zone remained, humanity's final fortress in their home solar system. Commander, called out Dr. Emily Wong from her research station, the Phoenix is ready for deployment. All quantum matrix systems are operational. The Phoenix. Sarah turned to look through the reinforced windows at the sleek vessel docked alongside the station. To any outside observer, it appeared to be just another human warship, outdated and primitive compared to Xerath technology. But appearances were deliberately deceiving. For the past 5 years, while humanity fought its losing battle against the Xerath, a secret project had been underway in the hidden laboratories beneath Titan's ice. Dr. Wong and her team had discovered something extraordinary, a way to manipulate dark matter through quantum entanglement. The Phoenix was the first ship equipped with this revolutionary technology, and Sarah had been chosen to command it. Time until enemy fleet enters Saturn's orbit? Sarah asked. 4 hours, 17 minutes, her tactical officer responded. Sarah straightened her uniform. Signal the defense fleet, all ships to battle stations, and get me a direct channel to Admiral Hassan. The Admiral's weathered face appeared on the main screen moments later. Commander Chen, I trust the Phoenix is ready. Yes, sir. Dr. Wong confirms all systems are go. But, sir, with respect, we should deploy the entire fleet now, while we still have the advantage of Saturn's rings for cover. Admiral Hassan shook his head. Negative, Commander. The Xerath must believe they have us cornered. Their overconfidence is our greatest weapon. Your mission remains unchanged. The Phoenix must appear to be attempting a desperate breakthrough of their lines. Only then will they commit their full force to the trap. Sarah understood the logic, even if she didn't like it. The Xerath had conquered dozens of species across the galaxy, always following the same pattern. They would overwhelm their opponents with superior numbers and technology, offering no quarter and accepting no surrender. Their arrogance had grown with each victory. Engineering reports quantum cores at full capacity, Dr. Wong announced. The dark matter containment fields are stable. Sarah took one last look at Saturn's rings. Somewhere out there, hidden in the ice and rock, were hundreds of human ships waiting in ambush. But everything depended on making the Xerath believe they faced only a token resistance. All hands, this is the commander. Sarah broadcast across the station. In 4 hours, we faced the greatest battle in human history. The enemy believes they have won. They think humanity is finished, that we'll break like all the others, but they don't understand what they're dealing with. She paused, watching her crew stand a little straighter at their stations. Humanity didn't come this far by giving up. We didn't survive ice ages, plagues, and our own wars by surrendering. Every time we faced extinction, we fought back harder. Today, we show the Xerath why that is. Begin preliminary launch sequences for the Phoenix, she ordered. Transfer command operations from the station, and send word to the civilian transports. They have 30 minutes to clear the combat zone before we begin our counterattack. As her crew rushed to comply, Sarah felt a strange calm settle over her. The Xerath were about to learn a harsh lesson about humanity. Sometimes, the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the biggest fleet or the most advanced weapons. Sometimes, it's the one with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. The Phoenix's engines hummed to life, and Sarah allowed herself a small smile. In a few hours, the real war would begin. The Phoenix glided silently through the debris field of Saturn's outer rings, its dark hull absorbing what little light reached this far from the sun. In the command center, Commander Chen watched the tactical display as thousands of red dots representing the Xerath fleet moved inexorably closer. Each passing minute brought humanity closer to its moment of truth. Dark matter containment at optimal levels. Dr. Wong reported from her station, her hands moving across complicated quantum displays that few others on the ship fully understood. The field generators are performing better than our simulations predicted. Sarah nodded, remembering the countless failed experiments that had led to this moment. 3 years ago, when Dr. Wong had first proposed using dark matter as a weapon, most had dismissed it as desperate fantasy. Dark matter was theoretical, invisible, impossible to control, or so everyone thought. "Show me the reactor core readings," Sarah ordered, and a holographic representation of the Phoenix's heart appeared before her. Within a specially shielded chamber at the ship's center, artificial quantum singularities were creating a cascade effect in the dark matter that pervaded all of space. The Xerath, for all their advanced technology, had never thought to look into this aspect of physics. They had mastered conventional matter and energy, but they had ignored the invisible threads that held the universe together. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice cut through her thoughts. "Commander, enemy scout ships have entered the inner ring system. They're scanning for our defense platforms." "Let them scan," Sarah replied. "Maintain our position and keep our quantum signature masked." The Phoenix's dark matter drive produced no conventional energy emissions. To the Xerath sensors, they would appear to be nothing more than another piece of rock and ice floating in Saturn's rings. Dr. Wong approached Sarah's station, speaking in low tones. "Commander, there's something you need to see." She pulled up a new set of readings. "The dark matter field isn't just hiding us. It's actively bending space-time around the ship. We could potentially use this for more than just weapons." Sarah studied the data, her eyes widening slightly. "You're saying we could create localized distortions in space-time?" "Exactly. If we tune the quantum matrices correctly, we could theoretically create temporary micro-wormholes. Short range only, but enough to give us a tactical advantage they won't expect." The tactical implications were staggering. The ability to instantly relocate in the middle of combat, to appear behind enemy lines, to strike and vanish. It would change everything about space warfare. A warning tone sounded throughout the bridge. "Multiple Xerath capital ships on approach," Rodriguez announced. "They're launching fighter screens. Looks like they're preparing for a standard sweep and clear operation." Sarah watched the tactical display as the alien fleet spread out in a classic search pattern. The Xerath were nothing if not methodical. They would systematically destroy every hiding place, every potential ambush point, until they found what they were looking for. "Status of the civilian evacuation?" Sarah asked. "Last transport cleared the combat zone 10 minutes ago," her XO confirmed. "All non-combat personnel are safely beyond Saturn's orbit." Sarah took a deep breath. Everything they had worked for came down to the next few hours. "Dr. Wong, begin powering up the dark matter arrays." "Lieutenant Rodriguez, signal the hidden fleet. Operation Shadowfall is now active." Throughout Saturn's rings, hundreds of hidden human ships received the coded transmission. Like the Phoenix, each had been retrofitted with smaller versions of the dark matter technology. They weren't as sophisticated as the flagship systems, but they didn't need to be. They just needed to survive long enough to spring the trap. "Enemy flagship is broadcasting," Rodriguez reported. "They're demanding our immediate surrender. Standard ultimatum. They're offering to spare any survivors if we submit to immediate occupation and resource extraction." Sarah's expression hardened. She had seen the aftermath of Xerath occupation on Earth. There would be no surrender. Not today. Not ever. Send them our response, she ordered. A single word. Never. The bridge crew worked with quiet intensity as the Xerath fleet drew closer. They had trained for months for this moment, running countless simulations, preparing for every contingency. But now it was real, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Dark matter field at maximum intensity, Dr. Wong reported. Quantum matrices are synchronized across all vessels. We're ready, Commander. Sarah looked out at the vast expanse of Saturn's rings, where humanity's last fleet lay hidden, waiting for her command. The Xerath thought they were hunting desperate prey. They were about to discover they had walked into a carefully laid trap. All ships, Sarah broadcast, her voice clear and determined, prepare to execute Operation Shadowfall on my mark. Remember your training. Remember Earth. Remember what we're fighting for. Today, we take back our solar system. The Xerath fleet drew closer, their massive ships casting long shadows across Saturn's rings. They had no idea that they were about to face something entirely new in the history of space warfare, a force they couldn't see, couldn't predict, and couldn't defend against. Sarah Chen allowed herself a small smile. The real battle was about to begin. The void between Saturn's rings erupted in chaos as Operation Shadowfall began. The Phoenix materialized behind the Xerath's front line, its dark matter drive creating ripples in space-time that distorted sensor readings across the battlefield. For a crucial moment, the alien fleet's sophisticated targeting systems struggled to lock onto a vessel that seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously. Multiple dark matter fields engaging, Dr. Wong called out, her fingers dancing across the quantum controls. Spatial distortion effects exceeding projected parameters. Around the Phoenix, hundreds of human ships emerged from their hiding places in Saturn's rings, each surrounded by its own dark matter envelope. The Xerath response was immediate and predictable. Their fleet turned as one, bringing overwhelming firepower to bear on the seemingly suicidal human attack. But their energy weapons passed harmlessly through dark matter-cloaked ships, the beams distorted and redirected by localized warps in spacetime. On the Phoenix's bridge, Sarah watched the confusion spread through enemy formations as their standard tactics failed. They're adjusting their attack pattern, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, switching to kinetic weapons and gravitational disruptors. Sarah nodded. Just as we expected. Dr. Wong, initiate Phase 2. The quantum physicist's hands flew across her console, and the Phoenix's dark matter field shifted frequency. Across the human fleet, other ships followed suit. The change was instantaneous. Dozens of micro-wormholes opened throughout the battlefield, connecting different points in space for fractions of a second. Xerath kinetic rounds meant to cripple human ships instead passed through the temporary wormholes, emerging behind their own vessels. The aliens' superior technology became a weapon against them as their own fire tore into their rear shields. Enemy fleet showing signs of disorganization, Rodriguez announced, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. Their command and control networks are struggling to compensate for the spatial distortions. On the main tactical display, Sarah watched as the massive Xerath formation began to break apart. Their rigid military doctrine, which had served them so well in countless conquests, was now working against them. They had no protocols for dealing with an enemy that could manipulate the fabric of space itself. The Xerath flagship is broadcasting on all frequencies, communications reported. They're demanding to know what we're doing, how we're doing this. No response, Sarah ordered. Let them wonder. Let them feel the uncertainty that had plagued humanity since their invasion began. Continue Phase 2 operations. Prepare for Phase 3 on my mark. The battle continued to evolve as the Xerath tried to adapt. Their ships began moving in smaller, more manageable groups, attempting to isolate and overwhelm individual human vessels. But every time they thought they had a lock on their prey, the dark matter drives would shift, creating new patterns of distortion that defied their tactical computers. "Commander," Dr. Wong called out urgently, "I'm detecting massive energy buildups in the enemy fleet. They're preparing to fire their primary weapons, some kind of quantum cascade device." Sarah's eyes narrowed. The Xerath were getting desperate, willing to risk their own ships to eliminate this unexpected threat. "All ships, execute emergency pattern Delta. Dr. Wong, prepare to initiate Phase 3 ahead of schedule." The human fleet scattered in perfect coordination as massive beams of quantum energy lanced through space. But instead of devastating the human forces, the beams encountered carefully positioned dark matter fields. The result was spectacular. The quantum cascade effect was amplified and reflected, creating a chain reaction that rippled through the nearest Xerath battle group. "Enemy vessels showing critical power fluctuations," Rodriguez reported. "Their quantum weapons are backfiring. They're taking heavy damage from their own attack." Sarah leaned forward in her command chair. This was the moment they had been waiting for. "All ships, this is Commander Chen. Execute Phase 3. I repeat, execute Phase 3. Show them what humanity is truly capable of." Throughout the battlefield, human ships began generating synchronized dark matter fields, creating a complex web of quantum interactions. The space around the Xerath fleet began to warp and twist as multiple layers of reality seemed to overlap. Dr. Wong's voice was tense with concentration. "Quantum matrix synchronization at 97%. Field stability holding. We're ready, Commander." Sarah took a deep breath. Everything they had planned, everything they had sacrificed, led to this moment. "Initiate final sequence. Let's remind the Xerath why they should have never come to our solar system." The Phoenix's dark matter drive pulsed with power as it coordinated the most ambitious military operation in human history. Around them, space itself began to change, and the true power of humanity's hidden advantage was finally revealed. The battle for Saturn, and perhaps the future of humanity, had reached its turning point. Space itself shuddered as Phase 3 of Operation Shadowfall reached its crescendo. The synchronized dark matter fields from the human fleet had created something unprecedented, a massive quantum lattice that encompassed the entire battlefield. Within this lattice, the laws of physics became malleable, subject to human control. "Quantum lattice stability at 89% and holding," Dr. Wong announced, her voice tight with concentration. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she monitored the intricate dance of dark matter fields. "All ships are maintaining synchronization." On the Phoenix's main display, Sarah watched as the Xerath fleet's formations dissolved into chaos. Their ships, once arranged in perfect military precision, now moved erratically as their navigation systems failed to compensate for the distorted spacetime around them. The mighty alien armada that had conquered countless civilizations was being undone, not by superior firepower, but by humanity's understanding of the universe's hidden forces. Multiple Xerath vessels attempting emergency jumps, Rodriguez reported. "Their hyperspace engines are activating." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. "Let them try." The first Xerath cruiser that attempted to flee disappeared in a brilliant flash of light. But instead of escaping into hyperspace, it rematerialized inside the quantum lattice, its hull stressed nearly to breaking point. The dark matter field had turned their own hyperspace technology against them, trapping them in a maze of warped spacetime. "Enemy flagship is broadcasting again," communications reported. They're requesting terms of surrender." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. In the entire history of their empire, the Xerath had never surrendered. They had always been the ones dictating terms, demanding submission from their victims. Now, for the first time, they were experiencing the terror of facing a superior force. Sarah's voice was cold when she responded. "No terms. They gave none to Earth. Signal all ships. Execute Final Protocol Alpha." Throughout the human fleet, dark matter drives surged to maximum power. The quantum lattice began to pulse with energy as Dr. Wong initiated the sequence they had practiced countless times in simulation. The space around the Xerath fleet began to compress. Multiple enemy ships showing critical hull stress, Rodriguez reported. Their shields are failing under the spatial distortion. The Xerath fought back with desperate ferocity. Their remaining ships launched everything they had: energy beams, kinetic rounds, gravitational disruptors. But in the twisted space of the quantum lattice, their weapons were as likely to hit their own vessels as their targets. Lattice compression reaching critical threshold. Dr. Wong warned. We need to complete the sequence within the next 3 minutes, or the field will collapse. Sarah opened a channel to the entire human fleet. All ships, push your drives to maximum. Everything we have. Right now. For Earth. For Mars. For everyone we've lost. The response was immediate. Every human vessel redirected all available power to their dark matter drives. The quantum lattice blazed with energy, visible now even to the naked eye. A web of purple-black lightning that crackled across the battlefield. Space itself began to fold around the Xerath fleet, creating a pocket dimension that grew smaller by the second. Alien ships, trapped in the compression zone, started to break apart under forces their advanced technology never anticipated having to resist. Enemy fleet is firing their quantum cascade weapons again, Rodriguez called out. Multiple simultaneous discharges. But instead of breaking free, the massive energy release was caught in the quantum lattice, amplified, and redirected. The Xerath's desperate final attack became the catalyst for their own destruction. The compression reached its final stage. In a moment that would be studied by physicists for generations to come, the trapped portion of spacetime collapsed in on itself. Over 2,000 Xerath ships, including their flagship, vanished into a singularity of humanity's creation. As the quantum lattice dissipated, silence fell over the battlefield. Where the mighty Xerath armada had been, only debris remained, slowly drifting into Saturn's rings. Status report, Sarah ordered, her voice hoarse. 87% of the enemy fleet confirmed destroyed. Rodriguez responded. The remaining vessels are severely damaged and trapped in normal space. Our dark matter fields have completely disabled their hyperspace capabilities. Dr. Wong's hands were shaking as she pulled up the final readings. The quantum lattice performed beyond our highest expectations, Commander. We've proven that the technology works on a strategic scale. Sarah stood from her command chair, looking out at the stars beyond Saturn's rings. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had more than hope. They had a path to victory. Signal all ships, she ordered. Phase 4 begins now. It's time to take back our solar system. 3 days after the Battle of Saturn, Commander Sarah Chen stood in the observation dome of Titan Station, watching as salvage teams worked to clear debris from the rings. The remains of the Xerath fleet glittered like artificial stars, a memorial to humanity's first major victory against their invaders. The analysis of the captured Xerath ships is complete, Dr. Wong said, joining her at the window. She looked exhausted but satisfied, dark circles under her eyes testifying to days spent studying the alien technology. Their response to our dark matter technology was exactly what we hoped for: complete tactical paralysis. Sarah nodded, her reflection ghostly in the reinforced glass. And the prisoners? Terrified, Dr. Wong replied. The Xerath never imagined being on this side of a technological gap. Their entire empire is built on the assumption of superiority. Finding out that a primitive species could develop something they never even conceived of, it shattered their worldview. The quantum displays behind them showed real-time data from scout ships pushing toward Mars. The Xerath forces throughout the solar system were in disarray, their command structure broken after the destruction of their main fleet. But Sarah knew better than to underestimate them. Admiral Hassan's report just came in, Sarah said, turning from the window. The Xerath are abandoning their outer system positions. They're consolidating everything they have left around Mars and Earth. They're scared, Dr. Wong observed. For the first time in their history, they're facing an enemy that can actually hurt them. But Commander, she hesitated. There's something else you need to see. She pulled up new data on the quantum display. We've been analyzing the spatial distortions created during the battle. The dark matter compression event didn't just destroy the Xerath ships. It created ripples in spacetime that are still propagating outward. Every Xerath sensor array in the solar system would have detected it. And beyond? Sarah asked, already seeing the implications. The ripples will reach their nearest colonial systems within weeks. The entire Xerath Empire will know what happened here. They'll know that humanity has developed a weapon that can turn space itself into a battlefield. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, considering the ramifications. They'll come back, with everything they have. Yes, Dr. Wong agreed. But we'll be ready. The dark matter drive technology can be replicated. We're already installing it on ships at the Jupiter shipyards. And now that we understand the principles better, we can improve it, make it more efficient, more powerful. The quantum displays shifted, showing the current deployment of remaining human forces. Nearly a third of their ships had been damaged in the battle, but the victories had been worth the cost. For the first time in 3 years, humanity had a real chance to take back their homes. Admiral Hassan is calling for an immediate counteroffensive, Sarah said. Strike while they're still reeling from the shock. Take back Mars before they can fortify it further. And you disagree? Sarah's expression was thoughtful. No, but we need to be smart about this. The Xerath on Earth have had 3 years to dig in. They've turned our home into a fortress. We'll need more than just technological superiority to take it back. She pulled up a new tactical display, showing Earth surrounded by Xerath defense platforms. We'll need to be better than them in every way. Smarter, more adaptable, more determined. This victory at Saturn wasn't just about the dark matter technology. It was about using it in ways they never expected. That's humanity's real advantage. Dr. Wong smiled slightly. The ability to think outside conventional boundaries. To see possibilities where others see only empty space. Exactly. Sarah turned back to the window, watching the salvage operations continue. The Xerath built their empire on overwhelming force. They've never needed to innovate, to adapt. Every species they've encountered has fallen to the same tactics, the same technology. Until now. She straightened her uniform, determination clear in her stance. Send word to Admiral Hassan. The Phoenix will lead the assault on Mars. But first, I want every scrap of data from this battle analyzed. Every ship captain's report, every sensor log. We didn't just win a victory here. We changed the rules of space warfare itself. And when the Xerath return with their main fleet, they'll find that humanity has more surprises waiting. Outside, Saturn's rings continued their eternal dance, now sharing their space with the debris of a shattered invasion fleet. Humanity had taken its first step toward reclaiming their solar system, but the real war was just beginning. The Xerath would return, and when they did, they would face a species that had learned to harness the very fabric of space-time itself. The price of victory had been high, but as Sarah Chen watched her crews preparing for the battles ahead, she knew it had been worth it. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to reshape the galaxy itself. And this time, they had the power to make it happen.